Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Black and Abroad, an interview series highlighting the lived experiences of Black expats around the world. I am Kendall Tyson, your host, licensed therapist, and a fellow Black expat. We have another great episode in store for you today, and I would like you all to welcome our newest guest, Uriah. Say hey, Uriah.
Hey everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. So just a little background information on Uriah. Uriah is a master cosmetologist, and she's a creator and founder of JustSkin. JustSkin is a natural skincare line made with organic and high quality ingredients. So shortly after moving to China, Uriah realized that there was a lack of recognizable and available skincare products, especially those without the possibility of having whitening agents in them. And yes, that is very important here in China. For years, she made products only for herself and gifted them for birthdays or as tokens of appreciation. And after recognizing that there was a high demand for great skincare products, Uriah decided that she would share the goodness of her products with everyone. And we're glad she did. Using her professional expertise, she formulates her handmade products in Beijing. The products are great for anyone who wants to explore and cultivate a healthy skincare regimen. I know Uriah personally. She is a great person, great businesswoman. And again, we are glad to have her here on Black and Abroad to share her story. So let's get to it. Uriah, that was an amazing bio. And I just, what are your thoughts about hearing about yourself as I read your bio? What are your thoughts?
I feel like I'm so kind of not humble, but like I hate to brag about or to talk about myself in such a positive light. I do like to hear other people talk about it, but because I'm the one who wrote the bio, I'm kind of like, oh, this is so cringy. Like,
I know.
But I love hearing other people get excited about like the stuff I do.
Yes, I wonder, how does it feel when sometimes when we have that self-doubt that creeps in, but then when we hear the things that were once dreams that we've been able to work really hard to bring to fruition, to hear it from other folks, like what does it do to kind of settle your spirit and make you feel good?
It does feel good because it feels like, wow, like other people see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because obviously I could be like, oh, this stuff really works. But if nobody else ever tries it or even mentions it, then it does feel like,
Yeah.
But I try not to, or I've been trying not to like rely on other people's approval just to feel good, which is
it is difficult, right? Because we do things for the world. So there is a certain level of approval, I think, that is needed in order for us to continue to formulate and grow. But it's also, what have you found to be important when it comes to like trusting your own self and your own inner voice?
Well, when it comes to like business and this kind of thing, I know it. Like the bio said, I'm a master cosmetologist, so I know I know that the things that I make, I know that it works, and I know like I know the ins and outs of it, and I'm always doing research, so I don't really need like outside approval to know that it works, but it does help me to feel good when I hear other people kind of give me praise.
Yeah, it reminds me of this. I forgot where I hear it, but let other people do the speaking for you, right? Although I wonder sometimes as Black women, especially, being raised to be humble and independent and not really promote ourselves or toot our own horns. How do we work ourselves out of that mindset? To be business minded and promote in an ethical way? I don't know. What do you
I
think?
feel like it is really important to do, at least for me, because that's what I am right now, to do a lot more self-praise because if you don't root for you, who's going to root for you? And, or you can't really wait. Like, I can't wait for somebody to say, yeah, she's doing good things.
Yeah.
I should really be saying it to myself. And then eventually everybody will catch on. And if they don't, that's also fine. I have to be okay with myself.
Yes. Oh, I really like it. Having to be okay with yourself is key. I think it's honestly a through line of what we'll talk about today, not just business wise, but literally living your best life as a Black expat abroad, especially in China. Having to have a healthy self-appreciation and self-love in a world that can be a bit anti ... is really key to thriving in these kinds of communities. So, before I go deeper into the conversation, I tend to start with the question of, so who is Uriah? How would you describe yourself to the world?
Well, I would say that Uriah is a multifaceted, just lover of life. And like, I'm always seeking the happy place. And it's easy to kind of get outside of that, but I'm always seeking something that is going to bring me joy, something that's going to bring me back to center, bring me back to the happy place.
So I wonder, what's the happy place for you at the moment?
The happy place for me, that's a good question. The happy place for me, I would say, is definitely the weather. Easily.
Ooh, yes, ma'am.
Yes. So right now I'm in a happy place. It's feeling good outside. The sun is shining.
Yeah.
I love like being around people who are always laughing. I love to laugh. I love to make people laugh. And I would say the happy place is being around close friends and keeping up like laughter and like a lot of humor.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good concept, on a daily basis, seeking the happy place. What does a happy place look like for me today? And just got my COVID test a little while ago. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, another colleague and friend. So I would say, if I were to answer that question, I would say the happy place for me today would be intentionally maintaining healthy connection. That would be the happy place for me today. So I probably need to contact my nieces after we talk today, just so I can get some of that TT love.
Yeah. That's a good point that you made when you said the happy place for me today, because it does change from day to day.
Yes.
And I mean, from day to day, month to month, year to year, it's always changing. Sometimes you're like further down than you were before or further up. So that's a good point.
Yeah. So for everybody that's watching, this is a podcast that's definitely focused on living our best lives and tending to your mental health. I want you to ask yourself, what does a happy place look like for you today? And as Uriah said, it shifts, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just being noticing, like, what do you need on this particular day? So, getting a little bit deeper into this conversation, I'm curious, would you mind sharing with us the genesis of your expat journey?
Yeah, it was really kind of not random in the sense where, because I don't believe that necessarily anything is random, but it was random in the sense of it kind of came out of nowhere to the naked eye. I was finishing school and my undergrad degree, and it was a long time coming. Like when I first got out of high school, I went to college for 2 years. I dropped out, went to hair school. I was doing hair for like 7 years. And then at the very, like the back end, before I came to China, the last 2 years of me doing hair, I went back to school. So I was finishing my degree. I was maybe like 4 months to the graduation date. And I was just thinking like, oh my goodness, I'm really about to finish. What's next? And I knew I wanted to travel, but I was looking at it on a smaller scale before. It was more like I wanted to get into consulting, because I knew that was a career that they travel a lot, but they travel too much to the point of burnout.
Yeah.
And it's mostly domestically. So I was like, I don't know about that. But anyway, it started on Google. That was the genesis of it. I looked up traveling and working or something like that. And the first thing that popped up was EF, which anyway, I don't know if you've ever worked at EF, but I'm sure other people
I've heard of it. I have not been blessed with that genesis, but I've heard.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the good thing about EF is it's a really easy segue into China, into traveling, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was the start of it. I interviewed with them, got the job, and then maybe 4 months later, I was on a plane, August 16th, on the way to Beijing.
Okay. Is that your anniversary, August 16th?
Yeah, August 16th, 2016. Yeah.
Well, you've been here for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Mine is August 7th, 2018.
Okay. Oh, okay. So just 2 years shy.
Yeah. I heard something really interesting in the genesis of your journey, where you out of high school, you go to school for 2 years, you leave temporarily, begin a new leg of the journey, going to cosmetology school, and then deciding to travel and going back to school. And I really appreciate I'm not even going to say unorthodox. I would definitely say more commonplace. Right. That it's more tailored to what you need in the moment. And can you speak to that, for a second, for individuals who may believe it has to look a certain way, like the journey has to look a certain way in order for other people to know that it's worthy. Can you speak to that? Because that's not true, folks. It ain't true.
No, there is no such thing as the perfect way.
Right.
And sometimes I find that the more like tribulations you face along the journey, the more lessons you gain, and the more cultured your life experience becomes. Because if I hadn't gone through like dropping out and having all of these like second thoughts about what I wanted to do, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I probably wouldn't be here in this position, in this space either.
Right.
So for me to speak to that, I would just say like, trust how it's going. And then just be present in making the decisions that you're making. Like I didn't want to drop out of school, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And after the first 2 years, you got to hone in on like, okay, what do you really want to do?
Yeah.
And I ended up going back to college for the reason that I started, for the same major. but either way, and I mean, there was a lot that unfolded in the 7 or so years that I stopped going to school. I'm happy that I have my Master Cosmetology experience, and it's allowed me to bring in another stream of income as well. And it's something that I'll never forget, even when it comes to like child rearing. When I have my children, I'll be able to know exactly how to do their hair. I know more about healthy hair care, healthy skin, and all of that. So I would just say, trust how everything is going. That would be my message.
I really appreciate that. It is realizing that it's okay to make a pause along the journey. If you notice that the path that you're on really doesn't speak to what you want to do with your life, it's okay to do something different that is in more alignment with the future that you're seeking. We first have to have an idea of what is the future that I seek. It's difficult to blaze a path if you don't know what the destination or a stop on the journey looks like. And I wonder, do people get so caught up in what other people think that they should do, struggle with setting boundaries and, really living for themselves, that they continue on a journey or on a path that isn't really in alignment with the life that they seek for themselves?
And I think that's so, you're at such a young, impressionable age. Like, what are we graduating at? I graduated when I was 17. So 18. How the hell could I know what, like 18, and I'm supposed to make decisions for the rest of my life?
Right. Who you want to be? Who am I?
Yeah. Like, I don't even know who I am at the time. And then I'm making such a big decision.
That has some really big consequences. Like, I work with a lot of college students, and just when, we were in school, it was tumultuous enough. We didn't have COVID, we didn't have just the breakdown of society, honestly.
Right. I
Now
didn't
that
think
there's
about
so much,
that.
right, impacting. I mean, we had our own stuff, don't get me wrong, because I was in school and 9/11 happened. I remember where I was on that day. I can remember the text message that my daddy sent me. Where you at? Stay there.
Yeah.
So we had our own, I had our own fair share of stuff, but nowadays it's just so much more that you have to contend with. So really having a healthy understanding or a burgeoning understanding of who am I? Who do I want to be? What does that look like? What am I interested in? What do I like? What do I love? That's going to help me feel more fulfilled, right? Let me ask you, since you've been here, what I've been here for, you've been here six years?
Yep, about 6 years in August.
Okay, what if you think back on some things that you've experienced, what has been a really impactful moment of your time living abroad? And have you only lived in China?
I've only lived in China, China and America,
Okay. What has been like one of the most impactful moments that you've experienced since being abroad?
I would say traveling to different countries. And I'll have this kind of wave of feeling. It'll come over me just every so often. I'll be doing like some routine, something, just walking down the street or just living normal life, but in a different country. And it'll hit me like, wow, I could have never imagined this for my life. Like for me to be in such different places of the world with different people who have almost nothing not necessarily nothing in common, but we grew up so differently, people who look nothing like me, and being able to just still kind of blend in or just be a part of what they have going on culturally. It's that was really, or those feelings are really impactful for me, because it really lets me know that like anything is possible. You can do anything that you want to do, you can do it. So anyway, those are really inspiring moments for me. And you just sit back and you just feel like, wow, like this is really me. I'm really here.
Oh, it brings me to like, like you said, it happens every now and again. Like something just comes over you. I remember just taking a leisurely stroll. This might have been last week. The weather was great. Just walking down the canal, sun beaming, and I just stopped and I'm like, I really live in Beijing. Like I really been living in, not even just living, thriving. Growing my business, growing as a person in a whole nother country. Like who would have ever thought? Although it's always been a passion of mine, a desire of mine to live abroad, when it actually happens, when it's honestly your everyday life, it feels so surreal sometimes. How do you think, what do you believe, how has this experience changed you as a person? Like, how do you believe your perspective and priorities have been shifted?
When I have like that kind of experience, it really has made me become more present. Not too deep into the past and thinking about what I have been through or the experiences that I have had, and not too forward thinking where I'm like, okay, what's going to happen tomorrow? Next year, what am I going to do? I mean, and obviously it's good to think about your goals and stuff in the future, but it has become really important for me to live more presently and appreciate what's happening right in front of me. Because I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's all that I can do. Is I can't really control the future. Obviously I can manipulate some things and whatever, but who knows? And it sounds cliche, like who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, but it's true. And I can't spoil today by being so upset about what happened yesterday or being so worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. I have to live for today. So those experiences, that's the main impact that it's had on my, like the way I live my life.
I hear it. Living a more present and intentional life. So tell me, share with us when you notice that you are feeling a bit that existential like stress of what if. How do you bring yourself back to center? What are some mindful ways that you are able to bring yourself back to your happy place?
Yes. There is a technique. It's called STOP. I can't remember what the 4 letters stand for. But basically you want to stop, take a breath, and think about something that makes you happy, or think about something that made you happy today. Think about something good that happened today and expand on that thought. Because it's been said anyway, by this woman that I love following, her name is Abraham Hicks. If you think about a thought for 12 seconds, it begins its manifestation process. So if I'm thinking about something good or bad, either way, then those thoughts are going to compound on each other. And so obviously I want to think about something good. Oh, this happened today. This was great. And then I just have to maintain that thought for at least 12 seconds and then think another happy thought. So that's one way that I feel like I try to bring myself back. But sometimes sometimes I have to vent it out. Like I have to, of course, call a friend or leave a 10,000 voice messages to one of my friends, like, can you believe this just happened? Da, 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 da. But I try to have less of those moments because those moments used to take over my life. Like, especially, I'm sure you know about this, people taking pictures of you, like Chinese people taking pictures and videos.
Yeah.
Like that, like a few years ago, that really would mess up my day and eventually mess up my week. And I'm complaining all day about this one woman on the train this morning that was recording me. So anyway, I try to have less of those moments where I'm venting, because the more I talk about it, the more I still attract it.
Right. And it grows, right? Yeah. Those feelings, they multiply exponentially the more that you focus on. There's this this term survival of the busiest. As I was doing some more research, I specialize in anxiety. And there's this term, survival of the busiest. The feeling that you give more attention to, it amplifies, it grows, it takes a deeper root. And so while we can't stop our brain from thinking things or, stop our feelings from, popping up, we can definitely be more attentive, right? And shift what it is that we're choosing to focus on. So I really like the fact that what I noticed you just said was a way that you used to handle things is more of the venting, which we all do and we all need, right? We all need a safe space to kind of release. But then it's kind of like the more you focus on the things you can't control, the bigger it seems. And the more we choose not to be accepting of the reality. And the reality in China is if you Black, if you different, you're going to be some sort of a spectacle. Exactly. You can be on somebody's wall, doing God knows, whatever. And it's just like a level of acceptance. There's this term, like your locus of control. What can you control? Is it outside of your control? Great. If it is, what do you do to manage the feelings that you have about it? And I like that technique that you said, stopping, recognizing how you feel, identifying something that you're happy about or that, that made you feel something different and focusing on that for that 12 minutes to shift your perspective. That's literally how we change our brain, by reframing, shifting what we're focusing on. And it's mindful. It's a mindful practice to choose what you're, focusing on in that moment. Come back to center, come back to your happy place. And you do that over and over.
Right. Got to be consistent about it.
You have to. Anything that you want to improve and grow, there got to be some consistency. Exactly. So this really takes us into the mental health, portion of this conversation, which is definitely what I like to focus on. We know that you're a businesswoman, you know, you're working full time here in the city. And I just wonder if you were to think back over your life, you know, as a Black woman growing up in the US, can you recall any conversations, any messaging around the importance of mental health or mental illness or anything to that nature growing up?
No. Growing up? No.
Girl, that's literally everybody's answer in mine too. It's like, no.
Yeah. The only thing that you would have heard is like if somebody says something about going to therapy or seeing a counselor, like you automatically like, oh, you crazy.
Right,
like,
right. We don't crazy.
Do that. Yeah. So no, not growing up, not in my household. Nope.
Oh wow. It's so frustrating. Like my mom's a counselor. She's a retired counselor, and I love you, mother. But you know, hindsight is 2020. Sitting and thinking, what were the conversations had? There weren't many. It's
even though your mom's a counselor, she didn't talk about it at home?
Not really, right? Being working in the schools, and I had what I know of myself now. I definitely had high level anxiety, like high functioning anxiety. I mean, I still have anxiety. And there were lots of times growing up that I was depressed, but high functioning, perfectionist, doing a whole lot of stuff, showing up, being the top, and being one of the only Black people in my school that, or in my level, my grade level that was consistently in the top.
So you had something to prove.
Girl, listen, couldn't not show up, couldn't do the mediocre. I don't know any Black people that are out here that do things that strive for mediocrity. That's just not us.
No, that's true.
It's not. So when you got to the point, considering we were really having to survive, growing up, right? When you got to the point when you realized that you had more agency to do more for your mental health, what kind of shift did you notice that you had to make?
When I realized I really had the control over that, I had to just do it. And then when I do, if I am talking to a family member or a friend about therapy or whatever, I talk about it as if it's just normal. Yeah. And of course, maybe their first initial reaction is kind of like, I don't know, because they don't express it, not right away. Yeah. But it's funny because that type of anything is contagious. Any type of thinking, especially the people who you hang around most, you're contagious to them and they're contagious to you. So I've had friends that like, once I start talking about, oh yeah, I'm seeing a therapist now or whatever, next thing you know, they might say something like, oh yeah, I was looking up therapy, or, I was, So, just talking about it as if it's just normal. Yeah. That's what I have tried to do, and be more intentional about the conversations that I have, because that also makes a difference. Yeah. Like kind of having to change a little bit and realize like, girl, you can be a little bit negative sometimes. You know what I mean? And really facing myself like, you got to change this. This is how you've been for years, but you got to change it. Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Holding space, creating opportunities, have authentic conversations. But you said something so powerful, facing yourself. And I think that is one of the most difficult things to do and transformative things to do when it comes to really growth, especially in a mental health sense. It's and then doing that with such a high degree of self-compassion that you're able to move through the process and not judge yourself completely through it. But you also said something that is really important: dropping the seeds, right? Yeah. We can plant seeds. We may not see the fruition, but when we plant seeds, we know that something's going to grow. So having that conversation, I'm going to talk to my therapist. Oh, you got a therapist? Yep. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
and
Right.
everybody can do it. And
Exactly.
life is gonna change.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like for so long we've used our friends as therapists, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but some more often than not, our friends have the same kind of perspectives, the same mindset as us.
Exactly.
And sometimes we do differentiate with our friends, like in terms of their mindsets, but a lot of times we have that, and we have it probably the mindset in common. So I'm talking to my friend, meanwhile they think just like me, and so I'm not really getting any new perspective or getting any challenge on my own thoughts. So it's really just a cycle of what I think, basically.
Exactly. And people meet us where we are. We tend to gravitate to that energy to validate how we feel. If you notice that if we're feeling bad about something, we talk to people that we know will reinforce that particular feeling. Not necessarily somebody that will challenge us, unless we have that friend that will call you on your shit, right? In a loving and empathetic way. And I wish we had more people like that. But I think that, yes, it is important to have people in your life that help you build community, that feel like safe spaces, but they are not your therapist. You want to work with a licensed individual that can be more objective, help you see through the things that you're experiencing, and that's not necessarily going to validate your unhealthy thinking. But that takes you being open to that process. It's a lot that's wrapped up in that, but to have, which brings me into another point when it comes to like your mental, like the concept of mental health. How do you believe, has there ever, I was going to ask a question and something else popped into my head. When you think about being, right, when you think about being here, we're living in COVID.
Right.
And all of that. How do you believe your mental health has been impacted in the last maybe 2 years? What do you notice?
Oh God. I mean, in more ways than I can count, probably. But overall, it has brought me to really highlight my mental health. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was stuck in America. China had shut down. So I was stuck in America for like 9 months.
Me too.
So you already know.
Girl.
And lockdown, so it was just lame. I was staying with my brother and his wife. And she was a little bit not paranoid. She had a right to be paranoid, but she did not want to get COVID. So she was like, nobody should be leaving the house unless you go to the grocery store. So I couldn't get out and like release, you know what I mean? So I had to find other ways, and there are plenty of other ways, but I had to find other ways other than like going to hang out with friends or doing other outdoor activities. To kind of highlight like, okay, I need to feel good. And that's when I kind of realized like, oh, I have to feel good. I can't, otherwise what other option do I have other to feel miserable? Right. You know what I mean? And so it really became apparent in the last 2 years that mental health does need to be a priority. So I would say the pandemic or the COVID in general brought mental health to me and the importance.
I really appreciate your candor. I hate the fact that the world has had to experience this collective trauma, this compound, complex trauma that we're all experiencing one after another. That we don't know what the ending looks like, or what does life look like with COVID and testing and all the stuff that we're having to do here in Beijing. But I am so grateful for you that through this process, you've been able to realize so much that you can do for yourself, even though it's not an ideal situation. And that really does, again, start with like recognizing and noticing something doesn't feel right. So what can I do? I get the sense that you are very much a self-initiator, that you're really in tune with yourself, and working to identify what you need to be your best in those moments.
Yeah. And that, like we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, that also changes because my best self is not the same as it was yesterday, and it's not going to be the same tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true. It changes from day to day.
It does. Like there are some days I need to just lay on the couch and watch Bridgerton or Ozark or read a book. And, and some days where I want to be hella creative and just do stuff in my business. And some days where I just need to go outside in the sun, even though all the fluffy stuff in the air, and just walk on the canal for a few hours.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What are some ways that you found with the ever impending restrictions to really tend to your mental health and cope in a healthy way?
Lately, I would say getting out in the sun. The sun is really recharging for me.
Yes.
I've really come to learn that, like, it's to be out in the sun. And I know we're supposed to, like I've read before, we're supposed to, for about 15-30 minutes a day, kind of connect with the earth and, you know, walk around barefoot. It's not really great. We don't really have the environment for that, but if I can, I will. So yeah, little things like that. I've also noticed, like, staying in the shower an extra 10 minutes and just feeling the water on me. I was wondering about that, and then I read something about it, like some weeks later, that taking a shower is really it's also spiritual as well. Like it really helps cleanse you spiritually. And I'm like, sometimes I'll have a terrible day, and if I come home, and sometimes you just, before you even start washing, you just like standing there like, oh. And then after 25 minutes, after 25 minutes, and you know, you get out of the shower, you're like, oh, I actually feel better. And you, without even thinking about it, like you don't even really realize, but you're like, my mood is better. My mood is better now. So doing those little, small, tiny things, it really does help me.
It really does. That sounds, all of it sounds mindful. Having to be present and noticing physical sensations, any thoughts that are coming up for you, being accepting of emotions that come up, and just letting them go, wash away. Listen, I am here for it. I just wish that we had bigger water tanks filled with more hot water.
Right. Yeah. The 25 minutes is all you're gonna get. I would chop my arm off for a nice, clean, big bathtub. Like, yes.
See, we're different. I would do that for a high pressured, you know, ever consistent flow of hot water in a big shower with eucalyptus hanging. That is like a dream for me.
Okay.
Anything, just to stand under that hot water and just be.
Yes.
For sure. But let me ask you, you know, when you think about the concept of community, as a people that grow through relationship, how have you utilized your community here in Beijing, your community back home? How have you utilized the people in your life to help sustain you throughout this process?
Well, the community now is so much different from like pre-pandemic. A lot of people have left. Like it was totally different when I came back. Like after I left for those 9 months and I came back. So it's the answer is that it's changed, but I try to keep like-minded people around, but also people who challenge me in a healthy way, like you were saying before. People who are sensitive, and this goes the same for people back home because I talk to them often as well. But people who allow me to accept those, like allow me to go through the period of acceptance without such judgment. Because it's difficult when you're already judging yourself. We are our own worst critic. And so you're already heavily judging yourself. And so while you're going through that period of acceptance, for somebody else to then come and also judge you, it makes it 10 times worse. So I've just been trying to be mindful about the type of conversations that I'm having and the the amount of like allowance I give to somebody to have in my life, like the amount of access. That's what I'm trying to say, not allowance, the amount of access.
Yeah, it sounds like setting boundaries is important.
Yeah.
It's really realizing that I know what you know what you want, and you know, or you've learned over time who can show up for you in those ways that you're needing in that moment.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that shifts. Like living abroad, we already know that people are transient. I think I forgot what the average is. Is it like 2 years, 2 or 3 years for people to be here in the city? And so to have anyone beyond that time is very much an anomaly. I wonder what has it done to your relationships? What does it do? How does it influence the way that you connect and build relationship with people, knowing that there's a high probability that they may not be here within the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. This goes back to also being like living in the present, because like you said, they might not be here. And I have probably like a handful of friends from China who I still like from the beginning, who I still talk, and even they're not here anymore, but we're still friends. And we still talk often, like really close friends, probably like lifelong friends, you know? So that goes back to being present and enjoying the time that you do have together. And that's I would, instead of continuing on and on about that, I'm gonna just talk in circles about that one point. Being present and enjoying the connections while they're happening.
Yeah, that's true. Like I've shared with some people, you know, because some people are like, well, I don't want to, you know, really get to know folks because they're not going to be here. And I'm just always like, well, you really deprive yourself of really getting to know genuine folks, because if that individual is really meant to be in your life, that will transcend location. And one, we're used to being able to travel anyway. So it's just another place in the world to be able to go visit. I think it also begs to just really realize the importance of intentionality when it comes to these really quality relationships, and you have to be intentional about staying connected and staying, you know, involved with one another. But the involvement changes, of course, it shifts. But I just get the sense that I don't want to miss out on a good person because you may or may not be here. I don't want to stifle the opportunity to grow connection, because you might find a better phase of your life in another country.
Yeah. And sometimes I think that even if the person is not gonna, like, even if you know for a fact that this person is leaving next month, and a lot of times you have really deep connection, or not deep connections, but you have a really interesting perspective in a short time. Like that's why sometimes when you go to your hairstylist and girl, you were just in my chair for an hour and a half, but we're going to have some insightful conversation here. And then I'll see you next week. I'll see you in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be a long friendship or a long relationship just to gain something from it.
I agree. It can be impactful in just a short amount of time. Which is, I would imagine, is often present in friendships, relationships, any kind of ship in Beijing. You know, for sure. Well, let me ask you, what do you think has been the biggest, most impactful growth opportunity as a person that you believe you've experienced while living abroad?
The biggest growth opportunity as a person, I would say, and not to bring it back to business, but it's what I'm about to say has really impacted so many areas of my life. But really launching my business, because I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. Like my mom was always in corporate. And my father was, I guess he was an entrepreneur of sorts, but not in the sense that he owned his own business, but he worked for himself mostly. And so, I like I said, I know I have friends who are like, yeah, my dad was always starting different businesses. And so even though maybe his dad started several businesses within some time, and some of them will be successful, some of them won't, at least he had kind of that mindset already. He grew up
Right.
in an entrepreneurial kind of environment. And
Right.
so for me, being that I had not grown up in that type of environment, and I was able to successfully launch something, even if it is just in China, I really realized the possibilities of what I can do. And so that's how it links back into like my personal life, like knowing that I have the control, I am the key to unlock whatever possibilities are there for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Listen. Ooh, okay. You just gave me the title for this episode. And I'm writing it down before I forget. I love it. Like, it just felt so electric. And so empowering just to even hear you say, like, you are the one in control of unlocking all the possibilities in your life. So
yeah,
even if you don't, the whole thing with representation matters. It's true.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have to be the representation.
Yeah.
For
right.
it to matter, right? If it doesn't come from us, if it isn't there for us to model, how does it then come from us to model?
Yeah, that's a generational thing too. Yeah.
It is for sure. And so I know a lot of times we talk about breaking generational curses, you know, in our community, but what do you think it looks like to begin generational growth and wealth and just, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I would just go with growth. What do you think that process looks like for us in our communities?
I think it looks like a lot of trial and error. A lot of fear stifles us, not just as people. Like, and it can be stifling, and it probably fear is what may hold you back from a decision that you end up making in 2 years that you could have made today. And not that within the 2 years you didn't learn things or you didn't go through things that are going to help you when you get to that point. Like, it's going to happen in the right time. Yeah. But just to try it, and yeah, you are gonna fail at it, but you're gonna learn from that failure and you're gonna get to try again. So I think that is what creating that generational growth looks like. Is it's gonna look like trial and error, because I mean, there's no blueprint, like, okay, this is how you do this. And even if there was, I always go back to this, even if there was a blueprint, how boring is that? Like,
yeah, right.
What kind of life are you really going to experience by following these steps? Like, no.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, let it be a skeleton, right? Just a foundation, but how you develop that has to come from something within you, right?
Yeah.
We're not looking to create clones.
No, exactly. I mean, especially us, like, we are the most creative people.
We are the culture. Listen.
Okay.
Like, the research already says that from us, and Black women especially, let me just be clear, so much culture is created, right? Yeah. So I'm praying and hoping for the day where the world has a healthy appreciation from all of these great things coming from us and not necessarily being replicated from other people. Yeah. By looking at our example, right? I don't know. What do you think? Like, let's get into the business side of things, right? For, you know, a brief moment. How has taking your idea and birthing it into what it is now really helped to fulfill you, you know, as an entrepreneur, as a woman, an individual? What do you think?
It's made me feel accomplished, and how has it helped to fulfill me? It's made me want to do even more and try other things that I've thought about. I always like, you know how if you go on a date with somebody and they ask you, oh, what are your hobbies? And I always think, like, no, I don't have any hobbies. Like, I have friends who can paint, who can draw, who can sing. Like, those, I feel like those are hobbies, but I have none. And so being able to bring my skincare brand to life it's made me want to pursue more of the things that I've said I wanted to do, but kind of just, I like you said, because I didn't have that example, I just didn't bother with it. Like, oh yeah, no, I'll put that on the back burner, or I won't put that on any burner. Actually, that's just off the table, you know.
Well, what kind of risks do you think that you've given yourself permission to take through this process?
You mean through like starting businesses?
Mm-hmm.
Easily, I give myself permission to, like, you know, invest in the business in to the point where, yeah, I might lose money, but as long as there's a passion there and I'm not just doing willy-nilly, I allow myself to like spend money on my businesses in order to grow them. Also, allow myself room to make mistakes, because it's gonna happen. I know I already said that, but it's going to happen. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna end up spending money on stuff that you realize you never use, or stuff that might have been a flop or whatever. And I also give myself permission to try again, and to not beat myself up about it. Like, girl, it's okay. You made a mistake. Let's get back on the horse. Like, let's go.
Yeah. I was even going to ask you, like, what is the story that you tell yourself as you are coaching yourself through a mistake made?
Basically just whatever I learned from it. So, okay, I'll give an example. When I first started, I started with just scrubs. It was only body scrubs. I had like 11 different scrubs. And I remember I was getting the same feedback from like maybe a good 5 to 10 people that they didn't like the texture of the scrub. And at first I was kind of like, oh, these people, what is wrong with them? You know, and instead of you kind of being like Erykah Badu, and she's like, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my stuff, you know. That's kind of how it was. That's kind of how it was. And I'm just like, I had to realize that, I mean, yeah, this is something that I made, but it's something that is supposed to be of use to somebody else. So instead of taking that so personally, let's try another way. Let's see how I can fix it, especially because it's within my reach. It's not like I'm just married to this particular product formulation. Like, I can change it, especially if more than one person is complaining of having the same issue or the same feedback. So yeah, I try to take it in stride and not take it too personal. That's probably the mantra of my life, not taking anything personal.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. We have just a few more questions. I think everybody can learn from that, especially if you're a woman in business. You can't take it personally, and that feedback is the lifeblood of continuing to grow. Because like you said, you want business to provide a service, and if there's a disconnect between the service they're providing and your audience, if you want to grow, you'll listen to that.
Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes, is it so hard because there's already so many hurdles that we have to like jump over in order to begin and to put ourselves out there in the world to do these things that we love. So it hurts. But it's also understanding that it's part of the process, and having a very solid foundation in who you are and your why is critical to be able to move forward and push through when things aren't aligning.
Yeah.
What's your why?
What'd you say?
What is your why?
My why. Oh, my why. Okay, wait, my why for what? Because that's a big question. That's like a loaded question.
It's all of them loaded. Well, what's coming up for you when you think of it? What's coming up for you?
Coming up for me, I want to take my business, I want to take it internationally. So the why for me actually, because I didn't really have the answer until just now. The why for me is having freedom and control of my own time. That is my why.
Yeah.
I need to be able to, I need to be able to, one of my friends, closest friends always says, trading time for money. And that is really something that I want to move away from. Like, I mean, which I understand it. I'm not knocking anybody's hustle because I'm still doing it. I'm still trading my time for money. But I want to move away from that. Like, I want to have, and I think the pandemic brought that idea to a lot of people that like, oh, I do not like going to work every day. No, I want to stay at home. I want to
somebody else.
I want to cook breakfast. I want to be able to exercise throughout the day. I want to get outside in the sun. I don't want to get off work and it's about to be dark. I got to go home and cook dinner. Like, it feels like such, like, where is the you in that? There's no self-care that I know, like, and if I'm not going to care about myself, who is going to care about me?
Yeah.
So that is my why. The why is me. I'm the why.
I love it. I love it. You said something so important, like having the freedom and control of your own time. Mm-hmm. Oh man, like you said, just to be able to live life on your own terms is valuable. Yes. And entrepreneurship is a way for that to happen. And I am not the one to sit here and say that entrepreneurship is for everybody, because it's not. Yeah. Working a 9 to 5 is okay. You know, because honestly, we have to do that in order to feed our entrepreneurial pursuits until we don't have to. So I wonder, is it really having an appreciation of where you are in the moment? And then again, creating those goals to help you be more forward thinking and being strategic. Like, moving to China was a strategic move for me. Yes. Wanting to live abroad was always a thing, but it's being intentional, being strategic, and identifying how can I leverage this opportunity to bring about the other things. Well, that's never happened on the show before. I got excited in my postages. Okay, we'll do that later. Things happen. And how do you leverage, the opportunity that you've given yourself to bring about the preferred future that you seek? Yeah. I think that's key. So, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing. I said, yep, that's important.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. When you think about impacting your community, right? Either here or back home, what does that look like for you?
Impacting my community, I would love to, and I would have never seen myself like this until maybe a few years ago. I was talking to one of my sisters, and my niece was about to graduate high school, and we were having the chat about like, oh, what do you want to do? What are you thinking about doing? Blah 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 blah. And she said something about like, oh, I want to be a traveling nurse. And I was like, okay, cool. And she started talking about traveling. She's like, yeah, I want to move to, I can't remember which country, or even if it was a specific country. But either way, she said she wanted to move out of the country. And that is when I was like, wow, especially because I had been missing my family. So I was kind of like, wow, that made me feel good. Like, okay, sometimes I can feel selfish for being here and being kind of like disconnected from like my family and stuff. But that made me realize that these girls are watching you. You know what I mean? Like, even if, because I'm not just going back home and like saying, oh, y'all need to move. Come on, everybody needs to go. I'm not doing that. But they're watching me and realizing like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that. And it's like, wow, I never realized that I was kind of an inspiration for anybody really, but it makes it even more heartwarming for me because it's my nieces, it's my own family that inspiring.
Look at you starting generational trends.
Okay.
Plant them seeds. Listen, plant them seeds. That's what we got to do, right? Again, representation matters. If we don't have it, how do we create it? So I wish the best of success for your niece and her traveling nurse journey. That, listen, that is one of the ways to go. Everyone's going to need healthcare, and travel is life. So,
okay.
I want to ask you, how do you believe you, maybe you answered this with this, most recent response, but I want to ask directly, how do you believe you've tapped into the gifts that you've been given, your strengths and your abilities to be able to create opportunities for other people in your community?
I think that I don't do it intentionally. And maybe that's because I think I appreciate something when I can observe it and then take what I need from it. Like or if I'm seeing somebody who I look up to or who I'm inspired by, I don't want them to be telling me, this is what you should do, da 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 da. This is what I did. I would rather kind of watch them and like, oh, okay, I like that. And I pick up this, but I might leave that. You know what I mean? So I think that because I receive it in that way, I also don't intentionally put it out there and try to like tap into my community in that way. I would say I do it just by kind of like living my life normally and broadcasting the normalness of what I'm doing. And I'm sure you've also, I think all of us have experienced this when we, like our first trip back home or just in general, like our first couple of years here, a lot of people they have an idea of what's going on here. And they kind of glorify it. Like they think it's some huge, like I just became a Beyonce or something. And it's like, I try to get away from that because it's very attainable. Like it's not hard to move abroad. It's not, I mean, it does take some courage, but it's not unattainable. It's within reach. So I try to broadcast like, oh, we just live a normal life. Like I'm just at the park. I'm not doing nothing crazy. I'm not climbing the Eiffel Tower or something, that's so crazy. Like we just live a normal life. You can do it too. So I would say that's how I try to tap into the community.
Oh, I'm so glad that you said that. Creating a sense of normalcy and not like this huge separation to where it's just this grand thing that somebody else isn't capable of attaining. Even though, like you said, everybody that does this has to have a level of risk taking within them that maybe they don't realize. A bit of more of an intrepid spirit, right? But it's I think that's part of the reason why I created this platform. One, obviously, to broadcast the importance of mental health, but to be able to normalize the fact that Black people live everywhere. We belong everywhere. We thrive everywhere. And it is available to more people if you are trying to do something different in your life.
Yeah, if you want to.
Exactly. It's not for everybody. I'm going to say that there are specific and unique challenges that go along with being a Black expat. For instance, every year around November, when that weather hits and the holidays start, I get seasonal disorder. Like I get depressed because I love Thanksgiving and I can't go home. And the weather just does such a complete 180 that it is a shock to the system.
I'm the same way. When they're around December, I'm just like, oh, it's too cold. I am not coming back.
And just be cracking. Like, this is when your expertise definitely comes into play because Beijing winter ain't nothing to play with. Well, let me ask you this. We're almost near the end of our amazing conversation. I want to know, what are some of the non-negotiables that you've learned that you have to have in order to live your best life more consistently? What are some of the non-negotiables that have to be present?
Some of the non-negotiables. One of them is respect. One of them is respect. I think all of us, probably maybe women more than men, we've kind of teetered and like try to find the balance. Like I've accepted disrespect in the past, in different ways, you know what I mean? And I realized, no, that's not going to do it for me. And when I have accepted some disrespect, the relationship or whatever it is, it goes a little bit further, but then it ends up crumbling anyway. So let me just stop it where it stands, you know?
Yeah.
That's a big thing for me, is respect. And another non-negotiable for me is my mental health. It is like, it's, I mean, I know this, it's on key with what we're talking about right now, but it really is something that I have placed a high level of importance on within the last year or so. If it's something that is not serving me and something that is displeasing me, I can't allow it. So, or you displeasing my mental health, then no, it's out. So my mental health and respect.
Listen, I'm so glad you said that. I need people, like everybody hearing and watching this episode, please understand, you have the agency to set a boundary that works for you. Other people do not have to be in alignment with your boundary for you to set it. And your mental health, I never tell people what they should do. That ain't my job, right? But I am strongly suggesting to everyone that you make your mental health the number one priority. It is the glue that holds everything together, right? If you want to be your best self, you know, in your personal life, take care of your mental health. If you want to be your best self professionally, prioritize your mental health. If you want to be your best self in your relationships, make sure your mental health is intact, because it has such a ripple effect in our lives, and that can be good and that can be bad. So it's you choose. You got a choice. Which path do you want to take, and how do you stay on that path for consistency? So thank you, for sharing that. I have goosebumps again. So what are some final words that you would like to gift the audience before we do a rapid fire question?
Ooh, rapid fire. Okay, let me see. What do I have to say? Well, thank you for having me.
Already,
right. I just said, okay, what haven't I said already? Thank you for having me. I do just want to go back to, well, not really go back, but this will be a part of my final words, is that when you prioritize your mental health, you show up for yourself, and you're able to show up for others in the way that they need you. So yes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like, it has been a pleasure. I'm glad I know you in real life. And it has been a pleasure getting to know you on a deeper level just through, this episode. And can you share with us how we can connect with you and follow your journey and buy your products?
Yes. So on Instagram, my Instagram handle is at Uriah, Uria.h. And if you want to buy some products from me, I'm on WeChat. I only sell in China for now. And my business WeChat, right, exactly. My business WeChat is just JUST skin SKIN _.
Yes. All right. I am so grateful for this opportunity. So I have a few rapid round questions that I like to ask everyone. One of the first is, what's one word you would use to describe yourself?
Love.
Yes, I love that one. What's your favorite country to visit when we could travel?
Ooh, I love that question. I gotta pick one.
Your top 3.
Okay, that's better. I got something to work with. Malaysia, Ghana, and Philippines.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes. I don't think I've been to any of those.
Oh, yes. Okay, you have to at least I can't even choose one for you. I don't know. You choose one. You choose one.
Ghana.
Yes.
Ghana.
Definitely.
Like when the world opens up, I want to go to Ghana. Like I just keep hearing so many great things about it. They've just done the whole year of return. Was that last year, 2 years ago?
That was it, 2019.
Yeah. Okay. It's definitely on the bucket list for sure. So come on, China. Let's open up these borders.
Okay, you waiting.
Girl, waiting like for real. What is something that you're passionate about?
Something that I'm passionate about is improving myself. Something right now that I'm passionate about is becoming my best self. Self-improvement.
Yes. And what's the book that you're reading right now that you would recommend?
Oh, a book that I'm reading right now?
Or you've read?
A book that I've read, I would love to recommend is The Four Agreements. The Four Agreements is one of my favorite books. I've read it a couple times and I'm going to read it again. I always recommend The Four Agreements. It's something to live by.
I got it on my bookshelf.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would say, if you could give us a favorite quote or inspiration to close out this rapid round, what would that be?
My favorite quote. I had a favorite quote, but I can't remember it. My favorite, something that Abraham Hicks also said, is to find the joy. No, that's not the quote, actually. Okay, but the point of the quote, the point of it is to follow the feeling. That's what it is. Follow the feeling. Make sure you're constantly seeking feeling good. And once you find what feels good, you attract more of what feels good.
I love that. Follow the feeling. Oh, it's everything. They are teachers. They guide you. They instruct you. They are powerful. Y'all hear that, folks? Follow the feeling. Ooh, yes. And so with that, I am going to say thank you, Uriah, so much for sharing your time with us today. I hope that you've enjoyed, being on Black and Abroad, because you've given us so much to really think about. And to everyone else that's watching, I want to say thank you for tuning into Black and Abroad. Again, I encourage you to keep taking risks, keep impacting your communities, and make sure that you keep prioritizing your mental health above all. Please share this in your communities. It is through supporting one another that we can continue to grow our stories, grow our community, and reap the type of growth and success and bounty that we are deserving of. So I am going to say thank you. And with that, we are going to say peace, everyone.
Thanks.
You're all good.